the pattern this week is an easy peasy one. I mean, they're all pretty easy. And they're all, this kind of came up in Ravelry, but I can go over it again in terms of the width of the stripes. People were a little bit confused who are making a wider piece that's going to require more stripes. In general, so for the scarves, you really will just need to work one stripe of each of your colors for the large scarf and the small scarf. So if you bought a kit for the small scarf and you have 3 colors, if you knit one stripe of each, that will make the width of that scarf, and 1 strip each of the 5 colors will make the large scarf. And the same thing for the large cowl and the small cowl. Although, sorry about that, the small cowl is small only in diameter. The height is deeper. So I have it written for 5 stripes. Even if you only have 3 colors, you can still knit 5 stripes with leftovers of your first couple of colors. After the first 5, I guess my vision was the first 5 stripes we would do together and talk about the yarns, and each one is a different pattern. And then that would use up the time we have in the knit along. And if you wanted to make your piece wider, or if you have to make your piece wider, like a lap blanket or a large blanket, or if you just want to, you could use up the rest of your yarn making stripes in any way that you wish. You can use the same yarn and patterns together over again, just like the first 5, or you can mix it up and use different yarn with different patterns next time. There's no real rule for you guys in terms of how you use up the remainder of your yarn after the first 3 or 5 stripes. For the lap blanket, for instance, you should have enough yarn. I'm just finishing up my lap blanket, and I had enough yarn to make 3 stripes of each color in different widths. So I wasn't able to make them all, a full like 14 rows or whatever the first pattern is, but some of my stripes are 8 rows, some are 12 rows, and that enabled me to have my yarn spread over the blanket, a little more. Or you can use up all your color in one stripe each time. You can make 5 wide stripes to complete the width of your piece. It's really up to you how you use it. If you're going to do it that way, if you're going to use all your yarn in one big stripe in each pattern, you're going to have to knit faster each week to get that much knitting complete by the next session. But for some people, that's not a problem. Last week seemed like some people were wishing they had more knitting to do. So for them, that might be a good strategy. Trying to remember if there's anything else about the stripes that, oh, look, Cardigan's here. Hi, Cardigan. She had to eat her supper, so she didn't come with me. Trying to think if there's anything else about the stripes. Hi, sweetie.
I think Andrea has a question.
Yeah, there's a couple people that have questions.
Molly and Andrea.
Yeah. I just wanted to not lose my train of thought. I think that's all I really have. So Molly?
Hey, so I had ordered, I definitely messed up and thought I was, forgot which size I ordered, and now I really want to make the wrap. So I ordered more. I was just wondering when it goes out.
When did you order it?
I actually ordered it during the meeting last Wednesday.
Okay, so it probably went out on Thursday or Friday, and don't forget it was a holiday weekend for the post office, so the mail's a little slower. So
okay,
yeah, probably went out. Yeah, probably went out on Friday because I don't think any shipping people worked on Thursday. So
yep.
And then, yeah, it might take a few days extra just because of the holiday.
Okay.
Andrea?
Good evening. I had a question about the new pattern for this week.
Uh-huh.
And I'm new at all this, trying to figure out. So, and I'm doing the circular. So when it says after row 8,
Oh,
work
let me-
row 1 through row 4, 1 bracket 0 time more. What is the 0? Like, do I just do it
Oh,
one more time?
Yeah, so you're doing a cowl and there are 2 sizes to the cowl, the first size and the second size. So the first size is always the first number and the second size is the number inside parentheses.
So if I'm doing the large cowl, I don't do it. I
Right,
don't do work row 1 through row 4 again.
correct.
Okay.
The large cowl is larger in circumference and shorter in height.
Okay.
And the stripes that you're knitting for the cowl are the height, create the height.
Right.
Unlike on the blanket or the scarf where the stripes are creating the sideways width.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
You're
A
welcome.
question. I
Yeah,
have a question. So if I understand what you said correctly, I'm knitting the lap blanket. So my color 1, you're saying I could knit more rows of clue 1 for color 1.
if you
Because
want
I'm
to,
not going to use that color 1 again.
correct.
Okay.
Well, no, you'll be using it again however you like. So you could knit, so I think when I wrote it out in the message that I sent everyone on Ravelry, the blanket is going to take approximately, and I'll run through this for everybody. So the blanket takes approximately 12 or 13 stripes to get to the right width. If the stripes are, depending on how many rows you work, and it's up to you how many, after a certain point, you can customize the width of each stripe. The stripes will measure 2.5 to 3 inches each, including the garter stitch separations between stripes.
Okay.
And so that means that to get the width of your blanket, you need to knit 12 to 13 stripes, depending on the widths you use. For the
Okay.
large blanket, you would need to knit, I think I said 12 to, you would need to knit 10 inches more, so approximately 3 more or 4 more stripes than that. And I don't think anything else has a variable width like that. So you can use color number 1 again. I used my color number 1 3 times in my blanket, or no, I used it twice. So I made 1 really wide stripe and 1 kind of normal stripe. But then there are a couple other colors that I used 3 times instead of just 2 times. Just felt like those, for whatever reason, the yarn went a little further. I probably knocked a couple rows off of each stripe, and that gave me enough to do another stripe.
Okay.
So that's what I was saying, if you have a little scale and you weigh your yarn after your first stripe, you'll have an idea of how much of it you use, and how many rows you have knit with that amount, and it'll kind of give you a guideline to how much more you can knit with that color. So I don't mean to leave like all of it up to you, but it really is sort of very customizable. So and in that way it gives you an out for your, sorry, it gives you a little bit of an out if you're running low on one of the colors. You can just work with a different color or make that stripe a little narrower. Most of the patterns do not have to be knit to their full amount that is stated the first time. So let's say you were working with this number 2 pattern B, and the instructions tell you to knit 12 rows of pattern B this time around. You can also do pattern B as 8 rows, or you can do it as 16 rows. It's very customized. So if you get going later on in pattern B with another color and it feels like you're running out of yarn, you could just make that stripe a little shorter. Anybody else have a question? So how do you like working with color number 2 so far? How does it feel? Tell me your
I
thoughts.
like it. I like it. It's smoother than it looks.
Uh-huh.
You know, I have no idea what it is, but it's smoother than it looks. I like the way it looks.
Is it Polworth?
It's not Polworth.
It's not Polworth. Okay.
Um,
Can you tell us what color is number 2? Because I've rearranged mine.
oh, it's the cream.
Oh, okay, okay.
It's the cream.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was my number 1. I loved it.
Awesome. And then
I feel like it-
last week we used the dark gray, the Folkestone. So that was our Kent DK and Folkestone. I just need to look something up here. Hang on 1 second.
Can you guys hear me? Hello, hello?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. I feel like the creamy colored yarn has a really nice stitch definition. I like it. I mean, they all do, but this one just seems to pop. Maybe it's because it's light colored, and because it's pearl stitches.
Mhm. It's probably not just because it's light colored. It's probably because, and some of you might have noticed this, it has a different number of plies. Oh, I think our visitors are here. So a big pickup truck just pulled in, so that those are probably the guys that are shopping for their wife, mom.
Lucky he comes in a pickup truck.
What's that?
She's lucky he's driving a
I
pickup.
know,
All that
I
yarn.
know.
Totally, Robin, totally.
Yeah, we'll see if he goes home with that much, right? Let me see now. So I won't say too much about the yarn till after yeah, this is them. Okay. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. My mom called.
Yes, she did call.
Sorry, I'm not a big dog person.
Anybody else want to guess what the cream is? I thought it was Polworth, but obviously I'm way off base.
I think it's Corriedale.
Corriedale?
The reason I think that is because there's some on the website now for sale, and I don't remember it being there.
Oh, okay.
Good deduction.
Yeah, that is good. I thought it was Polworth too. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I was wondering if it's a mix. Are any of these going to be a mix? Do you know?
Don't know.
I wonder.
I think I know what the brown one is. And if I do, number 5, I think it's a mix.
Yeah,
Yeah. But it's
much
on
more
the
woolly.
Mm-hmm.
Did she say that the the lap blanket goes, the stripes go side to side? Is that what I understood her to say?
I don't remember.
I think that they do, but I think that on the lap blanket, because it's shorter than the other items, the stripes are going to be fatter. That's what I understood. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but
Are we
Okay.
allowed to show spoilers?
I just wondered if I was, which direction we were going.
Yeah, my stripes are a couple inches. I've got 1 and 2 done. Well, 2
Mine
done.
are too. Here's
So,
mine.
can you hold it up again, Linda? I didn't see it.
Wait a minute.
Oh, yeah, that looks
Can
just
you
like
see it?
mine.
Yeah.
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 I'm winding yarn 3 right now, so I just made a mess.
This creamy color reminds me of the Targi Sport we used for the witch elm hat in
Mhm.
a club yarn. It
Hmm.
feels that same way to me. It's just such a tighter twist on the Targi.
Well, I am terrible at trying to determine which yarn is which. I'll never win that contest. So-
Neither will I. I'm
Yeah.
gonna actually vote for Linda's choice of Corriedale since there's a new one.
Right, yeah.
And I don't know anything about yarns to speak of,
Yeah.
only the ones I've used.
Yeah, and isn't Corriedale just a little bit stiffer and not so spongy?
Go Lou.
You know
Corriedale.
more than I.
I
Jean.
have no
I don't
idea.
know.
I thought it was just a little more rough than.
It does, it seems pretty soft though, when it's, knit up. I think it feels pretty soft. It doesn't feel scratchy or anything.
No, just a little stiffer, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree
It's
with the
definitely-
stiff. I was
Yeah.
surprised it was so smooth for
Mhm.
being
Maybe
stiff.
yeah.
the stiffness you're talking about is what gives it that stitch definition.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
It feels different to me than the Targi, but I use the Targi Tango Sport for the Bee Sanctuary Mystery Knit Along.
But
And
that
it's-
was a 2-ply Targi.
Yeah,
The one we
yeah.
used earlier in the
Oh.
barn box was a very tight spin like this, but 3 or 4-ply actually.
Yeah.
It was quite different than the Targi Tango.
Okay. It's funny how different it can be with different, how it's plied, how it's
Mhm.
spun and how it's plied.
Does it seem funny to say this feels more old fashioned, like the kind I grew up knitting on, this kind of yarn?
No, that's
I
exactly what
agree.
I was thinking too.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
it's rustic.
Yeah.
It's like a rustic yarn.
yeah.
I say, I agree with whoever said it was the Targi yarn from the School of Wool back in, I'm trying to find the year it was, because I made a pair of hand mitts that were on that and I loved them. And this feels just like that. So we'll see.
I think that was 2020 or something.
I think
I-
it was 20, I think it was 2018. Hold on a minute.
I
Mhm.
thought that one was more smooth and shiny than this one.
Really?
Yeah.
wi-
Yep.
And definitely much wider, not so creamy.
Right, right. That's why I agree with Linda's deduction that it's a Corriedale.
And it was
It's not
2018. It was the School of
smooth. You know what I bet it is too? That Targi was washed for the elm, the witch elm, and the one that we got that a lot, some people made the Targi Tango is not washed before we got it.
Yeah, and I just looked at the yarn online and it is this color.
Yeah, the Corriedale DK.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's Corriedale on there in a different listing.
Okay,
It's, I think it's confection is the Corriedale one. If I'm not mistaken. Confection Sport is a Corriedale, but
Oh.
that one is, that's also a 3-ply, but this must be a new yarn maybe in the shop because that's their sport and
Yeah.
there's worsted, and this one, if it's in the kit, it's DK because the other ones were DK.
yeah. Yeah. I love our deductions.
We are sleuths when it comes to this.
We want to know and figure it out.
Everybody got so quiet. It was the sun that came in.
You missed all the guessing.
Oh, I kind of could hear it, but I couldn't hear it completely. So, sorry, I'm looking for something and I'm having trouble finding it. That was so cute. That was the son that came in to get his mom's yarn. He was
What
like,
did
"I'm
he
so-"
choose? Or had she
Well,
already chosen?
yeah, she had a list. She sent them with a list. So, it's kind of, wasn't up to them, which is, I guess she didn't trust them. I don't know.
I wouldn't trust my sons to pick out my yarn. I'm with her.
Was the truck full at the end of it all, like we were hoping?
No, just 3 skeins. But nice skein. They were all lace yarns. I think she wants to make some little nothings. She loved that newsletter. When she called, she was like all about that newsletter. I'm just trying to find my notes about the yarn and I'm worried that All right, so let's get back to what were some of the guessing things that I missed while I was talking to that guy. What'd you guys guess?
But there was, I heard Corriedale, I heard Targi Tango. Was there another one?
So one of the things I started talking about before they came is that one of the reasons you may feel like the stitch definition is better is that the number of plies in this yarn, if you look at it compared to yarn from last week's yarn was a 2-ply and this is a 3-ply. So 3-ply yarns, yarns that are multiply are always going to be smoother and more consistent. They kind of lack that thick and thin. In general, they lack that thick and thin texture that you sometimes get even with a really good 2-ply, just because they are 3 plies. And it's very interesting. So yarn can be spun in in almost any number of plies. There are some yarns out there that are 16, 12 and 16 plies, or yarns that are made up of multiple plies that are themselves tiny little 2-ply yarns. So you can get really high number of plies, but most of the yarns in the commercial yarn market are 3 or 4-ply. And 2-ply tends to be used for yarns that are more bouncy. 2-ply really is different than all the other plied yarns because when you make a 2-ply yarn, you're spinning 2 plies and they're basically coming together like a magnetically attracted couple and wrapping themselves around each other. It is how the 2 plies have a very strong kind of bond in the yarn, and they wrap tightly around each other in this spiraling shape. But they're literally wrapping around each other to make that shape. And the resulting yarn is a little bit like a spring in that, if you think of the 2 plies wrapped around each other, making little loops, you can squish it, vertically and open up the plies a little bit. 2-ply yarn, because both plies are so exposed, 2-ply yarn tends to fuzz a little more and pill a little more and to be, slightly less durable unless it is also spun very tightly. So soft 2-ply yarns would be slightly less durable than the same wool spun in a 3-ply yarn. Once you get past working 2 plies together, whenever you work 3 or more plies, whenever you spin those together to make a yarn, what happens then is that the multiple plies come together vertically like this. They kind of form a group that travels around a center core of air in a unit. So they are always traveling together around in a spiral instead of coming together and wrapping around each other. So the 3 plies are not wrapping around each other. They are working together to wrap around a center core of air down the yarn shaft. And this is if you think about it, that's a really completely different way of forming a yarn than the 2-ply construction. And because of the way that works, anything that's a 3-ply or greater, first of all, the plies are usually thinner. So to make a DK in 2-ply, you would need 2 slightly thicker plies than if you had 3 plies. And every time you divide the number of plies ever further, each ply is going to be thinner to make the same weight of yarn. And the thinner the plies are, the more tightly they would be spun, and therefore the more durable they would each be. when you have a 3-ply yarn like the one you're holding now, not only is each individual ply thinner and more tightly spun and therefore more durable, but as the plies come together and work around to create the yarn shaft, the only one kind of side of each ply is exposed to the outer surface of the yarn shaft. So those 3 plies, when they come together, and travel around the outside, only this one edge is really exposed. This edge in between and the back edge and the edge on the other side are all kind of cozied in, into the yarn. And so most of the surface of each ply is protected within the yarn construction. And so the more, multi-ply yarn is therefore more durable, give or take, depending on the fiber that it's made of. It is just by nature more durable. So if you took a merino yarn and you had a 2-ply and a 3-ply and a 4-ply, the multi-ply versions are going to be more durable than the 2-ply version, especially if they're all the same weight. Let's say they're all DK. So that's a second reason why it's more smooth and more the stitch definition, and that translates into better and bolder stitch definition. So the smoother a yarn is, the less fuzzy it is, the better stitch definition in general you're going to get. And the third reason is this fiber is combed. So combing smooths out the fibers, makes them all fall into a parallel formation as they go into the spinner, and takes out any of the little rough stuff that generally would be included in yarn, like vegetable matter from the field, or little fuzzy neps of extra fiber or shortcuts that might be in the yarn. The difference between a combed fiber preparation, or this is where we get like a worsted preparation, is made up of combed fiber, and a woolen preparation, which is fiber that's only been carded, is that fiber that's only been carded is kind of purposely, or by nature of the process, once it goes into when it starts going into the spinner, it's still in a fairly chaotic arrangement of fiber. So it's like it looks more like the fiber itself looks more like a bird's nest when it goes into the spinner, and a combed fiber looks like, sleekly repaired spaghetti when it goes into the spinner. It's all nice and straight, it's silky, it's the fibers are laying parallel, and all of the anything that would make it not a smooth texture has been removed by the combing process. And so the yarn is more compact, the fibers are more compacted in the final yarn, and the resulting yarn is much smoother. And so the yarn you're holding, you're feeling that difference there. So this fiber is Corriedale. So whoever guessed that got it right. Corriedale is a medium length, kind of medium coarse or medium fine fiber. It can be very fine, but not as fine. It's never as fine as merino. And it tends to be like the medium fiber of the fiber world. Many commercial blends are, Corriedale heavy. It's a wool that's produced in fairly high quantity, just about everywhere in the Western world, both in North America and in Australia, New Zealand, South America. It's an easy to raise wool, so it's quite popular. I'm a little embarrassed. I'm gonna do the kind of heavy history, the in-depth about the sheep talk on Saturday this week, because we kind of promised that we'd seesaw a little bit for people that can only be here on Saturday. So we'll get more of the divvy on that Saturday, but I think just talking about the yarn itself is kind of nice tonight, because it is this this yarn is so velvety and really handles differently than the previous yarn, and differently than the Coria. So we have a Corriedale yarn in our current lineup called Confection, but it doesn't feel like this yarn. If anyone here has worked with Confection before, it's not that it's inferior in any way or anything like that. It's just because the Confection is not a worsted prepped fiber. Personally, I feel like there's a big difference between it and this yarn. Our existing Confection, let me just get a couple skeins. So we have Confection in a 3-ply construction in worsted and sport weight, and this is what it looks like. I don't know if it's as obvious. It's not. It's just this one isn't as smooth as what you're holding. It's this one is sourced from one single farm in upstate New York. I believe the Corriedale that you're holding did not come from that farm. It came from somewhere else. We're still trying to find out what the source of it is. It's definitely like a New England source, but our miller hasn't gotten back to us about where. But the Corriedale that we got for the mystery wool along, it's so soft. It's so silky, and I'm really wondering, and it's not as fuzzy as this Confection, which I've always loved this yarn. It's a beautiful yarn. It's very durable. It's got that velvety feeling that a 3-ply will give you, but it's not quite the same as what we got for the wool along, which I feel really lucky that we got something so, it's really, really soft. I don't know if, I mean, I hope you like it, but I just was really surprised when we got it, and it was really so delicious. So I devoted that, because I was really so pleased with the construction of the yarn and the quality of the fiber. And of course, fiber quality always plays a part. Sometimes when we're ordering large amounts of fiber, we might not be able to get that really primo fiber for our needs, because there just isn't enough of it. But for a project like this, where we just need kind of a one-time batch of fiber, we can actually get it from a better source for this purpose. For sure, it was more expensive than what we usually would pay for Corriedale, so that's kind of interesting to me. It must have come from some really small batch farm or something. So I devoted this to one of the more simple knit purl patterns, because I thought that would really show off a good yarn and stitch pattern combination. Knit purl patterns are one of my favorite classifications. I just love the cadence and the simplicity of them, and it's kind of like my happy place in terms of knitting, especially for things like socks, which I think socks are fussy because there's, the knitting is so small, and I enjoy them more when they are kind of a knit purl pattern. So but knit purl patterns don't always translate very well in every yarn. There are yarns, particularly 2-ply yarns can really take away from the stitch definition that you kind of need for a really good knit purl texture. And certain fibers are fuzzier and don't really give you that same stitch definition. Also, some fibers are too soft and they just kind of like melt. The yarn just doesn't really stand, it doesn't have enough body to carry the stitch definition that you need for a knit purl pattern, especially a very simple one like one line of purl stitches in a field of stockinette. You know, that's a pretty simple pattern, and making it really pop requires a yarn that that has a special, you know, kind of body to it. And Corriedale does have that. It's not too soft. It's not as soft as 100% merino or cashmere or anything like that. But it's not so wiry that it has a mind of its own either. So it's right there in the middle. It's a very medium grade fiber, and it's kind of a workhorse fiber for all different kinds of stitch patterns. It would make, and you know, anything that makes good knit purl patterns will probably make great cable patterns too, because of that same that body that it has will make those cables just pop off the surface of the fabric. And while it does have all that body, it's not a body that's stiff. So it's not gonna be too rigid either. It still has, the yarn itself has a nice elasticity, and the fabric that it makes is really stretchy and forgiving. And the yarn is very, in itself, very elastic and stretchy. Kind of, I'm just really pleased with this particular yarn. So it has a super lush surface as well. So very velvety and cushy. The yarn has a lot of air in it, but it also feels very substantial and dense. So this would be a great yarn for a warm sweater or a warm cardigan. What? Did somebody say something? Sorry. Or even like a hat or mittens where you want that extra body to hold its own and shut out the air, shut out the wind in the winter. Any other questions anybody has?
Does Corriedale come in colors, or is it this color because it dyes well?
No, it does come in a range of natural colors. That's why in our confection line, we have 5 different shades. So, yeah, there's it doesn't come in, if I'm remembering correctly, and I need to review my notes, and I will go into all of that on Saturday, like all the sheet stuff. If I'm remembering correctly, it's not a fiber that has black. So it does come in all shades of more or less the same gradient, you know, from white to chocolate, very deep chocolate brown. But not black. So you don't get, so the grays in Corriedale are brown grays and not so much blue grays. That said, you know, you can make a lot of different shades with what's available. It is so hot here this week. I thought, last week it was really, really hot and very humid. It was in the 90s, and like the humidity was also in the 90s. And this week it's very, very hot and dry. And now I'm starting to think that's even worse because it's so dry. There just isn't enough water or hand cream.
Did you name this color?
It's just natural cream.
So Anne,
Yes.
So this is a DK. If you tried to make it lighter, what would be the result? Like not as heavy weight. This looks like it could do a worsted really well.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go lighter, yeah.
You mean and keep the same construction?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have the confection that we have it in sport weight and worsted weight. So yes, you could loosen it up and make a really lofty, very cushy worsted weight. Or I think it could easily be lighter. What you would end up with probably is something less dense feeling. So and thinner, obviously. I don't think doing a 3-ply fingering weight would necessarily be as appealing, but a sport weight definitely you could. And what happens with a lot of these wools is then when you go to the fingering weight or a sock weight, you would go to a 2-ply instead of a 3-ply. And same thing, if you did a lace weight, those you might want to just do as 2-ply and try to get a tighter twist on the 2-ply for a fingering weight, so that when you plied it, it would have as much consistency as possible.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
What I was saying, Anne, is that that yarn felt, quote, old fashioned, and I think it's because it's worsted and combed, but it reminded me of what I knit on when I was a lot younger.
Yeah, I think if you've been knitting with our yarns maybe for a while, this might feel really highly refined compared to some of the other yarns that we have, because most of our mills don't have a wool comb. So most small batch mills would have to send the fiber out to be combed, and that's not even available to them necessarily everywhere. But this is a mill we've been working with for a long time, and they acquired a wool comb this year, about a year ago. So so they've been playing around with it for a while. It takes a while to kind of get your wool comb up and running, and what happens, and to adjust your pricing and everything for it, because when you start combing wool, you start having a lot more waste, and pricing and it slows down the spinning process as well. So you have to adjust your pricing for that. But if you have commercial clients, they're going to want that more smooth, preparation in everything, especially if you're spinning very fine yarns for weaving and things like that. So this mill got a wool comb about a year ago and has been working with it. And the whole, and this isn't a complaint, it's just a fact. The whole process was more costly for this yarn than for our confection that we previously got. And the confection we have is not a woolen spun yarn. It's not on the complete polar opposite. It's what most smaller mills do, when they don't have a wool comb, which is to produce a semi-worsted yarn. And that's where you card the wool, and instead of then combing it, you send it through the drafting process several times until you've drafted out a lot of the vegetable matter and little pieces of stuff, the little extra shortcuts of wool and things like that. You do that through extra drafting and to approximate a worsted preparation. And it is a nice intermediate solution for not having a wool comb, because you get a nice smooth yarn that still has a lot of that unique character to each wool type. So many of the yarns that we sell are semi-worsted preparation, because most of our mills don't have a comb. And even the mills that do have them, there are 2 of our mills have them. We don't get all of the fiber comb just because the mill has a comb. They like to use the comb because it makes the spinning process a little easier if they comb the fiber, but it is a lot more expensive to have that preparation. That makes sense. But yes, in the past, I imagine, and I honestly don't know what the kind of psychology of it would be for a wool company that was large, if they would opt to buy less expensive wool and comb it to make it nicer. Or do you see what I mean? Like, does combing balance
Right.
out for some
I'm
companies?
thinking the yarn I'm talking about is, my mother-in-law handed me a sweater. She stopped knitting 30 years ago.
Yeah. No,
And
I know what
and
you mean.
it all felt very
Very
smooth and consistent. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
And back then, I don't think that we were talking boutique wools.
No, probably not. And a lot of what you got was also made consistent by with chemical processes. And even today, the wool that is mostly commercially available is, I hate to keep harping on this like it's a complaint of mine. It's not. It's just a fact that fiber is tamed by dousing it with chemicals. That's what happens. So for instance, your generic wool blend that a lot of yarn might be made out of, that just says like 100% virgin wool or just 100% wool, that's going to be like a whole mishmash of different fibers that come from a co-op where farms, where ranchers send their wool when they're basically getting like 25 cents a pound for it. So just to get any money at all, or just to get the money to cover their shearing costs, they sell truckloads of their fiber to these wool pools or wool co-ops, where it's all blended together and sold into the commercial wool industry. And you're blending, in that case, lots of different types of fiber that may or may not marry well, or may not get along together in the spinning process. And so to make that that marriage work, they just douse it with a lot of chemicals to clean it, chemicals to, sometimes people say, oh, I don't like, there's a lot of grass in this yarn or whatever. Well, that's because we don't like literally drown it in a chemical to dissolve the grass. So if you think of a chemical that's strong enough to dissolve little sticks and grass and pieces of feathers and things that might be in the wool, that's pretty strong. So that's going on to the wool. Or to make I will often point out that in our yarns that have different shades that you can feel the difference between the different shades in the yarn. So the darker colors might feel more coarse. That would be fairly normal. Or they might feel a little more wiry, or the light colors might feel more bouncy. And when you get your skeins, a skein of the light color might look like it's even bigger than a skein of the dark color, simply because it has, the loftiness of the fiber is slightly different. And all of that is tamed in the commercial wool business with chemicals. If they use dark fiber at all, and there are some markets for dark fiber, because it can be over dyed to make dark colors. So there is some commercial use for dark fiber. Often those dark colors, natural colors, are a little bit less soft than the light colors. And so, one way to soften them up is by using chemicals. Sometimes dark fiber is even just bleached so that it can be a different dark color.
I gotta go, folks. I'll see you on
Okay.
Saturday.
Bye,
Bye.
Aud. The list kind of goes on. And what's even more disappointing, I guess, about the list of chemicals is that many of the chemicals are used to counteract the chemical from a previous step. So, like they need to use a chemical for something, but it's not really something you want to leave in the wool. So in the next step, they use a counteracting chemical to neutralize that chemical with another chemical. And all of that is cheaper than apparently getting better wool in the first place. So I don't want to sound really judgmental, because that doesn't accomplish anything, but we don't do any of that stuff to the wool that we make available to you. And when people talk about being allergic to wool, you really have to wonder what they're really allergic to. Is it the wool, or is it a reaction to some chemical that's on the wool?
Anne, will you be carrying this in the store?
I don't know yet. Probably not. Probably not this year, but we'll think about it. We haven't even asked yet if this particular source has different shades of available, or is it just the cream? Some ranches still do just raise white sheep. So if that's the case, that wouldn't necessarily be appealing for us and our customers. But
when you put the mystery knit-along together, did you have specifications from them, what you wanted, or was it the luck of the draw for you guys too? When you got it, were you surprised when you got it?
It ended up being a little bit of both, even though we did have specifications to start out with. So first we went shopping for what's out there that we can get that is unique and different. And what can we use in our regular lineup that might surprise the most people? What are the yarns that people haven't tried, or what can we do with a couple of the yarns we have? So when we went looking for other things, we got two completely new and unique wools, and then we wanted to go with a previous wool that we hadn't had in a while, and there was the mill made a mistake with that wool. Like it was all set to go, all spun, and then they spun all the singles, all the plies, And then when the owner was like not on site or whatever, the staff plied it incorrectly. So it ended up being a big, thick, it wasn't DK weight. So we had to let go of using that yarn, that wool. And that was a Cheviot wool, which I was really excited about because we have done Cheviot wool before, but it's gone now. And this was Cheviot from a much better, supposedly much better source. So I was pretty bummed out. And it was going to be a 3-ply, and they plied it as a 4-ply and made this really heavy, like it was just way too heavy. So we did luck out that the mill tried to get more Cheviot and couldn't get any anywhere. And normally that's a fiber that's pretty available, but for whatever reason, not available. So we did luck out that they had this Corriedale on site. It was all cleaned and everything ready to go. So this all happened, by the way, right around the time of Maryland. So I found out about this at the Maryland Sheep and Wool Show. So like when I keep saying that I literally just got the last of the yarn a couple weeks before we started, it's true. So so we switched gears and we did this Corriedale, and I really couldn't be happier though. I think this is even better than the Cheviot would have been. And both of those fibers were fibers that we have done in the past, but were like a new take on it. And I'm just really happy with this as a choice, especially since when you compare it to the confection, the Corriedale confection that we have, you can feel the difference between those two, which I don't know, I find that personally really really curious and exciting. And it's just
I've knit with a lot of your yarns, and when you when you knit with those, you do fall in love with them. They're just you don't want to knit with anything else. But I agree with Audrey. This yarn has like a retro feel to it.
Yeah.
Whether, you know, when you're talking about the combing, did they comb all the old yarns, the yarns from years ago, because they had to mill so many different yarns together? They wanted that smoothness. But when you're knitting with it, compared to when we've knit of all your other yarns, you have that little bit of woolen spun. It's softer, feels more. This does have a retro feel to it.
Yeah, and I think you know, the thing about it is it does give it, for lack of a better phrase, like a more generic feel. So in some ways, so the combing really does tame it in a natural way, which is good, and makes it very smooth and buttery and kind of luxe, gives it that velvety cushiness. But you don't get as much of the unique real Corriedale feel, which untreated Corriedale has its own kind of feel to it. It's a little stiff. It's very bouncy. It comes from, you know, merino genetics, and we'll talk about that Saturday, but it's a little rougher, I guess, than it's definitely rougher than merino. So it's got its own profile that for the most part in our yarns, we like to preserve that. And people will always gravitate to those. It's easy to gravitate to those very smooth, very soft surface yarns. As long as but you have to remember that to get there, you're taking away a little bit of that unique quality of the fiber to get there.
That's how I find this one. compared
Yeah.
to all the yarns that I've knit with you, of your
Yeah.
yarns. It's almost too perfect for, I feel it's like,
Exactly.
I feel it's
That's
too perfect.
That's a
There's
really
a
good
little
way.
bit of the natural, because your yarns are just, I love all of them, but this
Yeah,
one is
they're really,
just too
they're
perfect.
earthy.
It's too perfect
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah, they're earthy in a good way. I mean, for the most part, they are very refined in and of themselves. And the reason that we did different preparations in the knit along for the wool along is so that that's part of the experience of the wool along itself. This isn't just about sheep breeds or different types of wool. It's about different yarn constructions and preparations as well. We want this wool along to be a little bit, to have kind of its roots in my yarn voyage class, where we learn about all the different characteristics of yarn that make each yarn unique. And wool preparation and plying are two kind of major factors or characteristics of yarn that affect the performance and the way it feels and the way it knits up. Gika, you have a question?
Yeah, I was curious. So your confection is not combed, would that be correct?
Correct.
Because they didn't
Correct.
have combs at the time. Could you talk a little bit about, I know a little bit from a hand spinner's perspective, but from more of a commercial perspective, and maybe from your own experience as a hand spinner as well, the characteristics of a fiber that make it good for not combing.
That make it good for?
Combing or versus carding.
Oh, I don't think that I have that I know of. That's not really as much a consideration. You can't I mean, all fiber has to be within a certain length to go through the mill machinery. It has to be like under 6 inches and over 3 inches to go through the machinery successfully. But that's a very interesting question. I can try to see if I can come up with any information about that by Saturday, but that I know of, there isn't really a reason why any fiber would be not a good candidate for combing versus carding. For hand spinning, it's really different because you can hand spin very long fiber and very short fiber. So for instance, long fiber is usually a little bit easier to handle if it is combed a bit or smoother and prepped more, to take out some of the stuff that would interrupt spinning it. But you can spin fiber that's like 12 inches long by hand, but you can't do that in a machine. And even for hand spinning, you can't put long fiber into a hand carder. It has to be, I don't know how long a hand carder can take. I think it still has to be under 6 inches, and I think maybe under 5.
Yeah, I haven't pushed that limit, so I don't know. I've done a little bit of combing. I just wondered because seems like a luster fiber with the worsted preparation, with a combed preparation.
Yeah.
you really take advantage of that kind of thing.
Absolutely. When you comb fiber, you are removing a lot of the natural dust and dirt, and you're distributing the oils along the fiber as well. So just like, you can think of it just like brushing your hair. If you have long hair and you brush it, 100 times, it makes it shine because it makes it feel silky. It also makes it more staticky, but it makes it silkier. It's more liquid when you work with it.
One of
And
the things I heard is like if the fiber is longer and smoother, then it doesn't disrupt, the light reflects off it differently, and that's why those fibers are more lustrous. That's one of the reasons. Like silk is so lustrous, nylon, because it's this long, smooth.
that is one of the reasons, but really much more is the structure of the scales along the fiber.
Mhm.
So Corriedale is not in any way a luster fiber. That's more what we call a chalk fiber. So anything that has strong merino genetics is going to be, more chalky. Even the Polworth, which I know we're not doing Polworth today or anything, but lots of you received Polworth in Barn Box recently. Polworth has a little bit of a luster wool genetics, and so it has just that little bit of shine that comes out in it. But it's still considered more of a, it's not considered a luster wool, overall though.
Was it combed? I meant to ask you that.
The Polworth?
Mhm.
No.
It's carded.
It's carded, it's semi-worsted.
Okay.
And like I said, almost all of our yarns are prepped that way. I'm trying to think, we have a couple things that are not. So the Targhee Tango is woolen spun. The Parfait that we had, that was also a woolen spun yarn. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Most of the mills that we work with kind of specialize in the yarns that we produce. They're working with very small farm productions, people who have the yarn from their own farm milled so that they can maybe sell it at a wool show or even a farmer's market, or just use it within the family and friends. So they're kind of specializing in that kind of in the kind of yarns that we do. Even if those yarns get dyed later, they're working with natural wools. So our mills really like to produce a product that is as, I don't want to say as commercial as possible, but as commercially appealing as possible. But sometimes they have to work with producers who don't care enough to to work with them that way.
Yeah. One of the things that's really nice about this yarn is with a combed and I guess more or less worsted preparation, it's still got a whole lot of bounce to it, elasticity.
It's very bouncy, yeah. And combing doesn't take away the natural bounciness of a fiber. It doesn't diminish that at all. It is a natural process. It will temporarily stretch the fiber out and make it silkier and more relaxed and straighter. But as soon as you wash it, the memory of the fiber itself is gonna do its work and bring back the bounciness. So
because it doesn't take away the crimp.
Right, they're not steaming it or
structure. Yeah.
right, they're not pressing it or anything like that that's going to actually eradicate the crimp in the fiber.
So
It's just go ahead.
Why is it then that a lot of commercial yarns don't have that liveliness? Is it because of some of the chemical treatment that they've done? Okay.
It is, yeah. I mean, when you put most commercially prepped yarns next to the kind of yarn that we're knitting with, it feels dead. I mean, the fiber itself, it has a deadness to it that is, you can feel it. And that's why it's more the chemicals. And also, you know, heavy steam blocking is another thing that you can do. Pressing, you know, literally like pressing it. They even have, I don't know how much this is used now, but there was even a yarn that was at one time that was water spun. They had this water spinning process where basically they were felting the yarn as it got spun. They don't use that very much anymore, because of course, once you start the felting process right in the yarn, it's just going to keep felting. Yeah, that's a mistake to do that.
Cool, thanks for that. And thanks again for your attention to those details, because it does make for such a nice yarn. I remember being in a workshop with Norman Kennedy, and he was talking about that commercial yarns feel sort of dead and a lot of hand spun, and these yarns don't feel that way.
Yeah, and you know, as I've said over and over, one of my goals in producing our yarns is to share that experience of knitting with hand spun in a, you know, hand spun that is a more consistent product.
It's definitely more consistent than my hand spun, but I'm getting better. Thanks.
You're welcome. And please, you know, this is, I always like to say, this is your time. So if you have a question or want to make a comment or just general observation, don't be shy, because I'm sure whatever you have to say is interesting to everybody. And any questions that you have are questions that other people might have or might not know that they have, but would really want to know the answer to. And usually this is when Karen pipes up with her question. But we can only see your forehead, Karen.
I'll pipe up for some. Oh, go ahead, Karen.
Well, I'm always asking you when we're going to have a reveal, an attempt at finding out some more exciting news about for future knit-alongs.
Well, of course, our Rhinebeck sweater knit along is following hot on the heels of this one. So this one ends at like July 27th. And I think the Rhinebeck sweater knit along starts the first week of August. So I believe that we have postcards ordered that should start appearing in packages in July for that, or no, in June. I'm so mixed up. Yeah, in like we're getting to the end of June. I guess as soon as we get those cards, we're going to start sending them out. Because in the middle of this, we have a barn box coming up, so in just a few weeks.
I'm almost finished with Birds in a Thicket. I'd like to say I was hot on Sherry's heels, but she is a fast knitter.
She is.
So,
Hers is pretty.
yes, it is.
How do you like knitting it?
I really like knitting it. It was enough of the charts kept you engaged, and I'm on the very last. I finished chart D, and I'm where I knit the lace edging and get ready to attach it to the body. That's where I am right now.
Awesome.
So it's almost finished.
I hadn't thought about using that finish before, but I really like it better than the knit on.
Uh-huh.
Your other choice is to knit on the edging across the top.
Right.
And while you don't have to do any stitching afterward that way, I never was happy with the results of that. So I actually really like that this
Mhm.
finish a little bit better.
Yeah.
Andrea, I just want to, I forgot that Andrea had a question and then we went to Karen and I forgot. Let's see what.
That's fine. I was just gonna pipe up for sympathy because my pattern, I'm still on clue 1. My pattern didn't come out right. I've been debating, do I start over, do I not? But I've just realized that I have a twist in my circular knitting. So I'm definitely now gonna start over. But I have a lot.
The gods are
Right?
telling you to start over
Yep.
anyway.
Yep, that's my decision. They're still on the needles though, but I'm hopeful still because I have a lot more time coming up after this week. So I think I'll be able to catch up if I stick
Is
with
it
it.
long enough to be an infinity cowl?
That's my goal, is to make it that. So yeah, it's like, do I keep the twist then? Do I not? I know. I think I would prefer not to keep the twist.
Are you doing the large cowl or?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't, I don't think you could keep the twist with the small cowl. It wouldn't.
Fit over your head.
Yeah. Well, it would go over your head, but it would be twisted.
I made a cowl one
Like-
time. I still have it, but it's got a double twist in it. And I can't remember if it was intended to have a single twist, but it's got a double twist. And I love the yarn. I love the yarn and I love the fabric it made. So I keep wearing it, but I think, oh, probably would have been better if I just done a single twist or a plain cowl.
Right.
Is it intended to wrap around twice or something or?
Well, it surely does now. It's great because part of the yarn is silk and so it just feels really good. And the fact that I can, because it's long, I can kind of let it hang down or let it come over my shoulders. And then if I'm really chilly, I can double it over.
Look at Karen's dog. he's cleaning her chair. Oh my God. Dogs crack me up.
Where did Karen go?
Yeah, I don't know. I was gonna say, for anyone who might not know what we were talking about before, we have a subscription called Barn Box that, which is what I was mentioning before. We have a Barn Box coming up in the middle of this. So that's it's a subscription that you can sign up for. That's every 2 months, where you get a kind of an interesting yarn every 2 months, kind of like this, but different. We usually there's a new pattern or some exciting, fresh thing to do with the yarn that's especially tailored for that yarn. And the birds in the thicket that Elizabeth was talking about was a brand new pattern that I designed for the May Barn Box, which was our new goat lace yarn. So anyway, just a little background on that. But many of the people in the Wool Along are also in Barn Box. So we have some crossover chatter here. Marseille?
It's Marcel, but that's okay.
Oh, Marcel, okay.
I had a question that went away. Oh my gosh. Oh, I know. With the Barn Box, is there a big quantity, like, or is it meant to be a small amount to swatch? Or is it meant to be like a skein that you could use as a contrast in a sweater or something? Or
It's always a full-size skein. So the way that it works is, and normally that's a 4-ounce skein. So, and depending on the weight of the yarn is different. So last month was a lace weight and that had 750 yards in a skein. And that's enough to make a really large lace scarf or a small shawl. And and we provide along with it, your choice from a selection of 9 or 10 different patterns. So there, many of them are patterns from, my catalog, but I almost always also produce a new pattern to go with the new yarn as well. So for people who have been knitting my patterns forever and have knit every single thing that I designed, there's always something new. And that was, kind of silly, but, and for people, but it's also a way to highlight patterns that people may have forgotten about, or the way that we go about choosing the patterns is by the character of the yarn. So I try to choose patterns that I know will knit up beautifully in that month's yarn, and will have the right texture and everything. And then we have a Barn Box chat. So every installment includes a chat like this. It's usually a couple hours on a Sunday, and where I talk all about the yarn and how it was made and how I designed what I designed, and kind of like this. So
cool. Once I finish this, I might have to add that in, but
it's really fun. I think the people who have been, there are people who've been doing it since the beginning and have really, I always get a lot of good feedback on participation in Barn Box, that it's fun, it's interesting, it's unique, and it's very educational, if nothing else. So
It's also, when you talk about the selection of the patterns, there's almost always, so far, as I've been doing it, there's always at least 1 or 2 patterns that you can do with just the skein you got. There's some patterns where you might need to add more skeins. Like if you really liked it and you wanted to make a cardigan, you probably have to order more skeins. But there's always a scarf or a pair of socks or a cowl or something that you can make with 1 skein. That's part of that. You select a free pattern from this grouping.
Yeah, and
it's really nice.
It's a good deal. The way prices have been increasing, for $39 you get a premium skein of yarn, and none of our yarns are less than $34 now, I think. So you're getting a skein of yarn and a pattern, and mailed to your door. And usually there's a perk that goes along with it, like free shipping on extra skeins, or a discount on extra skeins. So we've got so there's quite a bit that you get with it. That's oh, I see a dog in a little cart, Mindy.
Also, you can check out the Barn Box forum on Ravelry. I'm trying to think, what is it called? It's not #1 Knit Spot. What is that Barn Box forum?
I think it's Barn Box.
Is it Barn Box?
Or the Clubhouse? It's the Knit Spot Clubhouse, right?
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. You can check that out, and it will show you like what past projects were and what people, Knit Spot Clubhouse for Barn Box. And that'll show you a lot of what we've knit.
We always aim to provide a high quality experience and keep it, and not just some ho-hum, this is what we could get for the budget we have. We really try to always be providing something unique from a unique angle, or a new color, or whatever. And so far, we've been doing Barn Box how long?
Oh golly, Dad. Didn't it start in January of 2020?
I think it was September. It started in September of 2019.
Okay.
Because the first yarn was cashmere, and it was in September. So
I get
it's
so many comments on that scarf. Everybody loves it.
So we're coming up on 3 years. Oh my God, that's that's a lot.
Bizarre, isn't it?
And because it started before the pandemic, for sure.
Right. Right,
Um,
it did.
and we have never done just something that we already do. So there are so many, like all of our signature yarns have not been done in Barn Box. So that's everything we've done is like a new thing or a new version. We have done, like we did the Kent as a lace yarn. That was a brand new weight of Kent. And I think that's the closest we came to anything that's already in our lineup. So,
Well, this last one was the goat, the greatest of all time yarn. Yeah, I just love, I cannot wait to soak this and block it.
oh my God, when you block it.
Yeah.
it's-
Like to see it. I can kind of tell that it's gonna just bloom up and be beautiful.
What really surprised me is how lustrous it is after it's washed, which makes all the sense in the world that if you clean something, it's gonna shine more, but
Would you like to see it blocked, Elizabeth?
Yes, we would.
yes, we want shawl porn. We want shawl porn.
Here it is unblocked. And
So, oh, this is great because on my screen, you're right next to each other too.
yeah, this is unblocked. So, you know, it doesn't look like a whole lot of anything.
Look at that.
Let's see, can you see the?
Okay, let me make you big.
Those are beautiful.
Wow.
And it's just one skein of yarn, but it's really pretty big.
Yeah, it's a good size.
That is just gorgeous.
Is
that beautiful.
mohair
size
or
did you get?
pygora? It's mohair. It's 40% mohair, 60% merino.
Mm-hmm.
And what size did you do, Sherry?
There was only the small size. So one skein and the small size.
Oh, I'm doing the medium, but I went down a needle size and I'm playing yarn chicken. I have this much left, but I think I'm going to make it.
It looks like you are.
Yeah, I always go down a needle size on shawls because I'm vertically challenged. So
Yeah, I have quite a bit of yarn left over from
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have some left, Elizabeth.
well, you're always generous on your yarn amounts, you know. There's always a fudge factor in there, so I have yet to run out. Thank heaven.
because we just find such a variation among knitters. I mean,
Right.
even with the fairly generous allowance, people use yarn so differently.
Yeah.
And I have a question at the shawl that's on the mannequin behind you,
Uh-huh.
the one with the colored.
This one?
Yes.
This is called Fall Between the Branches. And it was a yarn discovery tour pattern several years ago, like maybe 4 years ago. And it's really easy to knit using one skein of Feederbrook Farm Entropy and one skein of the Jacob Sport. Let me just get it. And when we did it, we had the blue color and also the very popular Sugar Maples colorway that everyone loves so much. Everyone loves that colorway so much. We've done it like 3 different times. So it's alternating stripe. It's a wedge construction. You start at the long end. You start with the bigger edge and decrease down. And I think that's correct. Yes. And you alternate stripes of Feederbrook Farm and the Jacob. And also the Shetland. You could use the Shetlandia Sport or the what was that other one that, oh shoot, that I always feel like is similar to those. Anyway, I think the needle size is 7 or 8. And it has short rows in the, it has short rows that make the stripes just slightly wider on the outer edge. So I think those only occur in the gray sections. And it's just alternating stripes of reverse stockinette and stockinette. So the color part is knit in stockinette and the gray part is knit in reverse stockinette, which is really just stockinette.
It's stunning. Looks very nice.
And yeah. And this, we don't have this exact colorway right now, but we have colorways that are similar. So we have you know, like we have this colorway which has blues and greens in it, and we have this colorway that has blues and grays in it. But it would be pretty in just about any feeder brook. It's one of my favorite things to knit because it's fairly mindless, and
What was the name of it again?
It's called Fall Between the Branches. And then if you wanted to, and it's fairly light. I mean, it's a nice fall and spring weight, but if you wanted to make an even lighter weight version, there's a lightweight pattern that's called Plains, like the Great Plains, and it's the same pattern but in a lighter weight yarn with, you know, slightly different short rows. Or you could just knit this pattern in lighter weight yarn on smaller needles, you know. But it's a nice big size. I think the pattern has 2 sizes and this is the large. And it's like at least 72 inches wide, if not more, maybe 80.
It's a little pop of color amongst the neutrals.
Yeah.
It looks very nice there.
And that's why I love having that feeder brook yarn in-house, because it has everything that everybody loves. Marcel, did you have another question, or is your hand just up from before?
Dude, it's up from before. I'm not sure how to make it go away.
That's all right. No worries. I'm just checking, just in case. I've been ignoring it, but it occurred to me that maybe you actually have a question.
I'm on my iPhone, so I can't really see everybody's spots. So sorry.
Yeah, on the phone, you can only see when someone is talking, which unfortunately for you is mostly me most of the time.
Can you remind me what the first yarn was again? I know you said it was Kent, but I feel like you used another word too.
It's the Kent DK, and which is spun from Romney and Merino wools. So it's Romney wool blended with Merino.
Thank you.
And the Merino is uncombed.
And it's field stone? That's not quite right.
Folkstone. Folkstone.
Folkstone.
Folkstone. Folkstone, which is a native stone to the Kent region in England, which is it's a particular type of stone, and they make everything, it exists in the cliff sides along the ocean there, but plenty of it is embedded in the land. And so lots of homes and structures throughout the towns are built from it. It's a dark, kind of nubbly stone. I didn't delve into the quality of the stone or anything like that, but now I'm thinking I should have found out more about it, but we went to see, so on Tuesday nights, we go to the movies every week. It's our one trip out of the house together each week, just about. So last night we saw a movie called Brian and Charles. It's a very indie movie, and I don't know if it's going to be everywhere or not, but it's in Canton, Ohio, so I suspect many of you will have access to it. It was so good. I really, really liked it. It takes place in rural Wales. There are many sheep make guest appearances all over the place throughout the movie. But they're not the main story. It's about this guy who kind of he lives off on a farm, or what used to be a farm, kind of in a rural county in Wales, and he's a little bit of an oddball and kind of shy, and he's really into inventing things, and he builds himself a robot. He builds himself a robot to keep himself company. Good night, Julie.
What's the name of it again?
Brian and Charles. It's so good. I laughed and enjoyed myself all the way through it. I really liked it. It's a little slow taking off, but once it gets going, it's very funny. And spoiler alert, the robot is Charles. And one of the funniest things about it is, and you'd have to be like my age to appreciate it, but Charles, he gets the idea to build Charles. He's kind of a garbage picker, because he likes to invent things. He's always looking for stuff. And he finds a mannequin head in the trash. And I think that gives him the idea for, it gels his idea of making his robots. So the face on the mannequin head looks like Charles Nelson Riley. You know who I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So that's part of what makes it so funny all the way through. Like for me, I always thought that guy was hilarious, but I think I only ever saw him on Hollywood Squares. I don't think I ever saw him in anything else. And he must have had a career to get onto Hollywood Squares, but I'm gonna have to look into that. But anyway, Charles reminded me all the way through of Charles Nelson Riley. So it's very sweet. And a really obvious metaphor for a lot of different things that are going on in people's lives right now. But really funny.
Thanks for the recommendation.
Yeah, we like our movies. And we usually try to go to the most offbeat things we can find, which is pretty slim pickings here in Canton. But there's almost always one, at least. Although a couple weeks ago we got we thought we were seeing something kind of offbeat, and it turned out to be kind of one of these it this is so weird. It turned out to be not at all what we thought, so that was just strange. It wasn't an art film at all. And I can't say more because I don't want to offend anyone. So.
It looks like I'm gonna be finishing Clue 2 today. So
Cool.
thank you. Yeah, I really like this yarn.
What are you knitting, Sheila?
I'm knitting the lap blanket.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a very I have to say I've really enjoyed knitting the lap blanket because it's very digestible in terms of the width of the rows. You know, it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, I made a tall scarf first, so those rows were really long, and I didn't mind them. You know, I thought those were even, you know, much more doable than I expected, but the lap blanket really flies compared to that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm gonna say goodnight. Thank you so much, Anne.
You're welcome.
See you on Saturday. Take care.
Yeah. You
Bye-bye.
too. Anybody have anything last minute that they need to
I'm curious if the violet is a good travel project.
the violet?
Mhm.
I would say it is. What you can do is if you get it on the needles and get your hems done,
Mhm.
that's like the trickiest part.
Okay.
Did you knit that, Sherry? Did you knit violet?
I did but I knitted out of a silk yarn, so I left it at home. But I think you're right. If you get the hems done, because there's some counting required there.
Okay.
After that, you should be good to go. There's some shaping.
Yeah, there's shaping in the body.
But you could do that when you're traveling, I think.
Okay.
And you know, how long of a trip is it?
Oh, it's a driving trip and we're going to be away for a week. I think what I might do is just bring my dandelion honey because I'm in the middle of working on that and then look around for something super simple.
Oh,
because
if you're thinking of bringing dandelion honey, then violet would be a breeze.
Yeah.
Compared to that.
Violet's easier for
And
card knitting.
And what you could do is you could aim to finish your sleeves. You could bring your sleeves. Those are the easiest. And
is
then
that what you do first on the violet or not necessarily?
not necessarily, but I usually do them first
Mhm.
personally. You know, just because I like to get them out of the way.
Right.
Or for the very reason you're talking about, I might arrange my project sequence so that I'm doing my sleeves while I'm traveling because I find them to be the easiest thing to
just
do.
take along.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in the car, Geeka. I mean, they're a smaller portion.
Right.
So you're not, you know, wrestling a bigger piece of fabric.
And just for travel in general, you can fold them up really small and stick them in a little project bag. They're not, especially in that fabric, there's nothing to them. So
I'll have to think about it. We're going to be driving. I'm driving up with my daughter and two granddaughters, like 5 and 7. So that's a little bit of a complication, but then we're going to hang out at this cabin. And so I could sit and knit. So I'll have to think about it. I think I might do something like bring something where I could make a simple cowl or a pair of socks or something like that can be a little bit more automatic. I like to have more than one project in case I get stalled out on one or something that's easy for me to do without
Yeah, plus an
Thank you.
emergency. Plus
Yeah,
I never travel with less than 3 projects, I don't think.
I figured out the
It's
hard way that,
rare. It's really rare.
you know, these unexpected things come up and it's quite annoying.
Yeah, like leaving with only yarn number 1.
Right, right. Or, yeah, yeah.
I know.
And another hint for people that are really enamored with the yarn from Barn Box is that they have to order their increased quantities right away.
Oh,
Because you don't always have them.
That's true. The cool thing about Barn Box is that many of the yarns are one-off. We only do them once, or we may put them in our rotation, but it might take a whole year for us to be able to do that. So, like with the Fin Dandy was like that, where we got that really great 2-ply Fin Dandy, and it was a whole year before we could find enough fin wool to do it over again for ourselves.
The other idea I've come up with for tempting people for knit-alongs was, like, everywhere I go, I usually have knitting with me, and you get into a conversation. Well, sometimes, you know, there are people you would take out for coffee, but instead of taking them out for coffee, this one particular person, I told her for Rhinebeck, I am paying her $12.
There you go.
That's my current strategy.
Well, thank you, Karen. That's really nice of you. That's so thoughtful.
So is the Rhinebeck knit along, everybody does their own thing? Or
Yeah,
is there one
it's a sweater knit along. No, it's not just one pattern. We will almost never do that because we have too many people who like to do their own thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, just you sign up, it's $12 to sign up, you get a free sweater pattern. So the whole sweater collection is open to you. And we have only a couple of rules with our knit alongs. One is you have to knit with either a knit spot pattern or a bare naked wools yarn, one or the other. And if you want to be eligible for the prize pool, you need to cast on at the start of the knit along and finish and display your finished object before the end of it. So, or by the end of it. So am I missing anything, you guys? And then we meet on Wednesdays and Saturdays on Zoom, just like this.
And isn't the first place, because it's a random drawing from all the finished objects. And I think first place is a $50 Bare Naked Wool gift certificate. Second prize is an ebook, a free ebook. And I can't remember third, or it's something like that. It's something along those lines.
I think it was a free pattern because I got it for the spring song. Yeah.
Yeah. So but to be eligible for that, you have to have knit your project within the parameters, within the time frame of the knit along itself. Although that's not a requirement for enjoying the knit along. So if you have an unfinished project or something you're continuing from a previous knit along, you can knit that in any of our knit alongs. You can do that. You just won't be eligible for the prize pool in that case.
Is there a prize pool for this knit along? Did I miss something?
No, I think we have one. It's not like as grand, so it's not like a money prize because of the fundraiser, but it'll be like an ebook. And then we asked the dog rescue to put together a few things to go into a basket with some other stuff. So to be announced.
And we're not showing our projects till the end, is that right? For this?
Right. Yeah, I mean, even you won't know what it looks like really until the end, so, or close to it.
Yeah, I just didn't know if we were doing each stage, if people were posting pictures. I hadn't seen any at the end of the first
You
week.
know,
And
that's fine with me. You're welcome to do that, in the, like in the Ravelry threads, for, yeah, and you should, if you want to have a thread for finished projects or, you know, progress or whatever. We did last week. I don't know, were you not here, Julie, last week? We did go around and
I
and show-
missed on Saturday. I was at my mom's and I was here for part of it Wednesday night, but yeah. So I had finished already the second part last night. I finished it.
Oh, wow.
Haven't seen any pictures or anything. So I'm working on my spring frost now.
That's fine. Yeah, we, it must have been Saturday because it was Jose that, she likes to go around and,
yeah, I
and do
wasn't.
show and tell.
Yeah.
So Saturday, when after we talk about the sheep, we can do some show and tell.
I was gonna watch the recording and I just haven't had time to do it yet, so.
Well, I can say that the rows on the wrap are a little long.
That's the longest thing. Yeah. But not that much longer than the large scarf because what was your isn't your cast on like 308
18 or something?
18?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I cast on 297, so it wasn't that much.
It's
Yeah.
comparable then, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
The
the
long,
large,
yeah,
the
the
large
long
scarf
cowl is
is
a long
large.
way around too.
The what?
The large cowl is a long way around.
Yeah, the large cowl and the large scarf are the same thing except for the border, except for one is circular and one is flat, and the flat one has borders. So they're really similar. And I really like it. It's a big scarf. Like not Lenny Kravitz quite big, but pretty. Although a lot of the photographs of his great big scarf were photoshopped to make it look like he was buried in it.
All right, I gotta go. Hockey game's getting ready to start.
Yeah, it's after 8. Is it the final, Sherry, or what?
It's the final round. It's not the final game, but still,
When is the final game going to be?
it just depends. So this is
I
the
always,
fourth game or something.
it always cracks me up that the Stanley Cup is in June.
Right.
All
Anyway.
right, I'm gonna shut it down.
Bye.
Go eat supper.
See
See you
everybody
on.
later.
Bye, everyone.
See you later. Bye.